what we're going to do is similar to last year, where the baby bottles will be for your world change stuff, change that goes in there. The bottles will be collected on, let's see, second quarter would be end of June, right? Am I right? April, May, June. And so at the end of June, we'll be collecting bottles, but also we'll be collecting the World Changer containers for Bay Cliff Health Camp. And we're going to get Clay to come in and talk to us about that because he's pretty knowledgeable about Bay Cliff. Again, another ministry towards kids. But let's welcome Noel and Paul. Good morning. Yes. You got it. Good.
All right, I do have notes to kind of keep me on track because I have the same gift Pastor Scott does of sticking to my 2 minutes, right? No.
Yeah, amen.
So, okay. So I wanted to first go through with you some of what CareNet does. What our ministry is. First of all, we're located up in the Sioux. We're right on Ashman Street, just before you go down the hill to Easter Day. We're that invisible pink house right there. It's so funny because we're a pink house on Ashman, and yet very few people know exactly where we are. We have 3 areas to our ministry. The first is our medical clinic, and we offer medical grade pregnancy testing, and then we do ultrasound confirmation of the pregnancy. This is for women that are coming in and they are not sure that they want to be pregnant. This is a way for us to be able to meet a very real physical need to know whether or not they're pregnant, and it's also a way for us to introduce them to their little one. We're doing it medically to be able to say, yes, the pregnancy test was accurate. Second of all, there is a heartbeat and everything looks good that way, that it's attached the way it should be and that we don't see any real physical problems. And thirdly, to give them an estimated due date, because a lot of times the women that come to us, this was not a planned thing and they don't remember when they got pregnant. The other part that we have of our services is what we call our Earn While You Learn program, and that's a parenting support program that goes from prenatal all the way through age 4. And we meet with them on a weekly basis, go through these lessons. We have over 200 lessons in our curriculum, geared for both moms and dads. And these are just short lessons, 20 to 30 minutes, few questions just to make sure that they understood it. They go through these one-on-one with an advocate. And as we're going through those, we're building a relationship with them so that there are days when they come in and say, I can't do this anymore. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm the worst parent ever. And we sit there and go, yep, I remember those days, But by building that relationship with them, they have a safe place to share those things and not feel like, I can't say this to somebody, I might be reported to CPS, or if I say those things, people will think I'm a terrible parent. So we're building this close relationship with them so that they feel safe to share. And then we can also share some things that worked for us, some things that helped us through those tough times. And then the third part of our services is what we call our MART. While they are taking their parenting classes, they earn points, and then they can use those points to go shopping in our MART. And our MART has diapers, wet wipes, toiletries, formula, clothing. You should come up and see it. It's really a pretty special place. But we've got stuff in there that, so they earn 5 points for each class that they do, and then they earn 2 more points if they bring back their homework from the week before. And the homework is just a simple 1, 2, 3 questions. How did I put into practice what I learned last week? So anyway, they could get up to 7 points per week. With for the used baby clothing, they can get 5 outfits for 1 point. So if they used all 7 points, they could get 35 outfits a week. I mean, that's just an amazing way to clothe your child. And this is all provided by donations. We don't buy anything for the Mart. It's all provided by donations. And so it's really a testimony to our area, to our churches, to our individuals, because that's where this stuff comes from. But again, this is meeting a very real material need that these women have. But what I want to share with you this morning is that we're a Christian ministry. And our whole purpose in building these relationships and in meeting with these women is to change lives in a way that we can't. We can meet their material needs, we can give them good advice, but we can't change their hearts. Only Jesus can do that. So how do we reach clients for Christ? This is a question that we've really been going over because we'd like to be able to just sit every single person down that comes through the door and say, hey, you need Jesus. And you know what? They'd all go, those are some weird Bible thumpers up there. I wouldn't go there if I were you. Anyway, so we've been trying to work through how do we do this better? How do we share with them more? And I think that the story of Jesus with the Samaritan woman at the well really portrays how we need to reach these women and these men that are coming through the door. So if you'd like to turn to John 4, we're going to start there. And I'm just going to read it to you. I have an NIV Bible, so just bear with me as I read through this. So, the Pharisees heard that Jesus was gaining and baptizing more disciples than John, although in fact it was not Jesus who baptized, but his disciples. When the Lord learned of this, he left Judea and went back once more to Galilee. Now he had to go through Samaria. So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from his journey, sat down by the well. It was about the 6th hour. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into the town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You're a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan. How can you ask me for a drink?" For Jews do not associate with Samaritans. Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did his sons and his flocks and herds?" Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become in him a spring of water, welling up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water." And he told her, "Go, call your husband and come back." "I have no husband," she replied. And Jesus said to her, "You are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is you have had 5 husbands, and the man you are now with is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true." "Sir," the woman said, "I can see that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem." Jesus declared, "Believe me, woman, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming and has now come when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth." The woman said, "I know that Messiah, called the Christ, is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us." And Jesus declared, "I who speak to you am he." Just then his disciples returned and were surprised to find him talking with a woman. But no one asked, "What do you want?" or "Why are you talking with her?" Then leaving her water jar, the woman went back to town and said to the people, "Come, see, a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Christ?" They came out of the town and made their way toward him. Meanwhile, his disciples urged him, "Rabbi, eat something." But he said to them, "I have food to eat that you know nothing about." Then his disciples said to each other, "Could someone else have brought him food?" "My food," said Jesus, "is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. Do not say, 4 months more and then the harvest. I tell you, open your eyes and look at the fields. They are ripe for harvest. Even now the reaper draws his wages. Even now he harvests the crop for eternal life, so that the sower and the reaper may be glad together. Thus the saying, one sows and another reaps, is true. I sent you to reap what you have not worked for. Others have done the hard work, and you have reaped the benefits of their labor. Now, this is quite a long passage, but it really walks us through, step by step, Jesus' relationship with this woman and how he addressed her. One of the things that, when I first look at this, one of the things that I look at is the fact that she didn't reject him. She didn't say, oh, well, you're being judgmental. I'm leaving. That's all I want from it. So why not? A lot of times when women come to the center, they're very on guard. They're afraid of being judged. They're afraid of being told they're not good enough. So why doesn't this woman respond to Jesus the same way? And the first thing that I notice is in verse 7. Actually, back up a minute. I want to look at verse 4. Many of our women that come to the center are very much like this woman. They're coming to the well because they know they have a need. They know they need water. But she's coming at a time of day when there's nobody else there because she doesn't fit in with everybody else. She's looked down on, and she knows that the life she's leading is probably not right. But she feels like she's doing the best she can. Many of our clients are in that same mode. Many of them do have a man in their life. Most likely not her husband. If it is her husband, he's probably not the father of her children, or at least not all of them. If she has more than one child, she probably has a different father for every child. Now, this is not the case for all of our clients. We do have some clients come that are happily married, have been married a long time, and they're just really struggling with this one. And so we do have a full range, but many of our clients do fit this scenario. So they come knowing that they need help. A lot of times they think that they need a different man, that it's the man problem here. But that's not the case. The problem is within themselves. What's interesting is that when we do have them come with their man, when the man comes with, a lot of times we see that same thing in him. He knows something's not right, but he has no idea where to start. And a lot of times the men will say, well, I grew up without a dad. I don't even know where to begin being a dad. And we know that that's a big part, but that's not all of the problem. Okay? So oftentimes they're looking at things outside of themselves, but we know that they're thirsting for more, that what they really need is a change of heart. And this is where Jesus comes in. He starts off by meeting those outside things. He declares his own need. Hey, I need a drink of water. Can you help me get this drink of water? And that's in verse 7. So they're talking about very specific needs that this woman needs, that he needs. And when she says, well, why are you even talking to me? Yeah, I could get you water, but, don't you know who I am? There's a lot of skepticism when our clients first come and we say, well, we can do this and we can do this, and what would you like to do with classes? And okay, do I have to have insurance? Do I have to meet a certain financial criteria? What if I'm tribal? So we get a lot of weird questions. We're like, nope, all of our services are free and confidential. You just need to come. And a lot of times that throws them off because they've had to fill out so much paperwork here or there, or answer so many questions, or are you sure I can get this service because I've gone through all this stuff and then they told me I wasn't eligible? So we get a lot of that doubt. And that's exactly what she's doing here. Why are you asking me for water? Right? Well, why are you saying that I can do this? And he comes right back to her and says, I'm asking you for that water, but I have something better to offer. And that's what we need to let them know, is that we have something better to offer. We can meet their needs now, but there's something more that they need. And that's where we need to be able to show our Christian faith. That's where we need to show that Jesus lives in us. So we need to make sure that we're starting each day in prayer. We need to make sure that we are spending our time in the Word, so that when we have those questions come, it's not a surprise to us. We need to be able to speak the Bible like we speak every other conversation, so that when it comes, they know okay, she talks about the Bible all the time. It might be safe to ask her a question about this. Because if we never bring up our own faith or what God is doing in our lives, a lot of times they'll be, I don't know if I can ask that. They might think I'm weird because I don't know that already, you know? But if we're talking to them about this stuff and we're translating it for them, not using our churchese, you know, but we're speaking in language that they understand, then they're willing to ask. And that's where Jesus gets her to. In verses 11 and on, she's starting to ask questions. She still thinks this is about her material need. She still thinks this is about the water in that well. But he's guiding her and he leads her. And in verse 13, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. Whoever drinks the water I give will never be thirsty. And it's just interesting that even that he tells her that this is a different water that he's giving, she's still, in verse 15, give me this water so I don't have to keep coming here. I mean, as a woman, last thing I want to do is another chore. So if you can do something for me to make sure that I'm not having to draw water every day, I'd be glad for it. But then he brings her right around to, okay, this is one thing that is standing in the way of your relationship with a holy God. And he doesn't do it in a way that's accusing, okay? He states a fact, and she doesn't argue it. He said, go and call your husband. Oh, well, I don't have a husband. And he's right. You're right. Okay. Now, a lot of the things that clients tell us, we have to listen to. We don't know things about them without them telling us. You know, we don't have this insight that Jesus did to know about her without her telling him. But when we listen, we can hear things that they're telling us. And a lot of times they'll say, I just can't understand why I can't make my finances meet. And sometimes you have to say, well, maybe the new vehicle that you just purchased, maybe you should have stuck with the old one for a little bit longer. Or, you know, just little things that are everyday common sense things that our society doesn't teach. You know, it's our society teaches worldly wealth. Our society teaches success. But they don't teach the everyday, slow, one step at a time, because that's how you gain a habit that sticks. So this is something that we need to make sure that we're doing with them, pointing out things that, okay, but you said this. Is there a way that we can do this better to help with that issue? A lot of times they just see, I have this issue, I have this issue, I have this issue, and they don't see how they connect. So here Jesus is showing her that you want this spiritual life. You want this well that's going to keep flowing over in you, keep you sustained. But you have a big issue standing between you and a holy God who can't ignore that. So let's deal with that issue. Sorry, I have to get back to my notes. So anyway, Jesus talks her through this, and she doesn't balk. You know, she says, well, you're right. But then here I have another question. If you know this much, what about this? Now she's starting to make this personal about, well, you're a Jew and I'm a Samaritan, so can I worship the same thing or know the same things that you do? And Jesus tells her, not right now, right? He says in 22, you Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet, a time is coming and has now come when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. We need to be ready so that when they ask, we can tell them, this is what a relationship with God means. Will she say, okay, I want that right now? Very seldom. Very seldom. Usually it takes months of her hearing the same message over and over to say, I think I might want to try that. I think I want to go to church. Do you think that group would really accept me? You know? And so a lot of times we need that time frame to build that relationship so that she gets to that point where she's willing to accept that, willing to get to that time. So then the next part that I want to jump to is that she's processing all this. She's trying to figure this out. And nowhere in this whole passage says that she accepted Christ as her Lord and Savior, right? So we have the disciples come back, and they're like, okay, Jesus is talking to that kind of a woman, but it says they don't question him. Why? Well, he's already eaten with tax collectors. He's already done all these other things that the religious leaders say are wrong. Okay, we won't question him about one more person he's talking to that we don't think he should be. So they don't say anything. She leaves. Not only does she leave, but she leaves her water jar there. So she didn't even get the water that she came out to get. But she leaves her water jar there, goes back into the town and says, "Come, see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Christ?" So she's starting to think about this. She's starting to process this, but she's already telling other people. Over 60% of our clients come because a friend or a relative told them about us. And most of those friends and relatives have been other clients. So the majority of our clients come because someone else in the same situation told them. And so this is really something that we need to be aware of too. It's hard when you're in a smaller community. Word gets around really fast. So we want to be sharing the gospel, but like I said, we don't want to be the ones beating them over the head with it because they're not going to think about it. They're just going to automatically turn away. Here, it doesn't say that she accepted him yet, but she's willing to tell other people about him and say, hey, come and see, come and check this out. What else is different about this man? So while she's gone, the disciples come and they're like, okay, well, I've been sitting at this well. This woman must have drawn water for you. You must need to eat now, right? And he says, I have food to eat that you know nothing about. Well, wait a minute. We just walked all the way into town, bought food, had to sit there and wait for them to cook it. Now we come back out here and you're saying you already ate? What happened? And then Jesus says, my food is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. This is really where CareNet is, where we're focusing right now. What is our job? God has given us a big vision, one that scares me actually, to open some satellite centers. We cover a large territory between the 3 counties, and we have small pockets of people everywhere. One of the main problems is transportation. Getting clients all the way to the Sioux is a hard thing. So God has given us this vision that we need to open up satellite centers and share resources. We have our ultrasound machine is portable, so we can say we'll do Mondays in Newberry, Tuesdays in the Sioux, Wednesdays in Kinross, Thursdays in St. Ignace. We could go all over with that. But it's a lot of work. It's a big project. And that scares me. But here, my food is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. So even though God has given us this vision, he has not told us how he's going to do it, and he has not told us when. Our job right now is to do the work that he has given us and to do it very well. So we are looking at all of our policies, all of our procedures, the way that we're operating, the way that we're ministering. Is this how God wants us to be doing it? Are we ready so that when he brings more, or when we do spread out, that we'll be able to do this well, that we'll be able to carry on the work that he's calling us to do? But it doesn't stop there, because he says, do you not say 4 months more and then the harvest? I tell you, open your eyes and look at the fields. They are ripe for harvest. There are so many people in our area, because we are an economically depressed area. There are so many people hungering for more. And yet they've grown up in homes where a Bible isn't even present. They've grown up in homes where morality and values are based on what feels good to you right now or what meets your state right now. And they're changeable. They've grown up in homes where truth is just kind of what I say it is. And today it's one thing, but tomorrow it might be something else, because tomorrow that will suit me better. So how do they even come to a place where they know that they're hungering or thirsting? There is a harvest ready. And this is one way, through CareNet, that we can meet that harvest. So just ask you to please be in prayer for us about that. But this comes to my closing remarks here. We have this harvest. But we are what we call a parachurch ministry. We don't belong to any one denomination. We don't belong to any one congregation. But we have this specific ministry that is a responsibility of the church as a whole, to take care of widows and orphans. Okay? So, specifically, what do we need from our churches? Well, first of all, we need prayer. All ministries need prayer. We are not led by people. We are not led by men. We are led by the Holy Spirit. And sometimes we are attacked in the spiritual realm as well. And so we need that covering of prayer. We need that intercession. There are days when I walk into the office and go, how am I possibly going to get these 10 things done today? And I have a tendency to not stop and start the day with prayer. I have a tendency to just, okay, sit down at my desk and let's get started. But when I have those other people praying for me, I remember, okay, wait a minute. I need to stop. I need to start this day on the right foot so that God's work is what I'm doing today and not my list. We were talking about that earlier. I get my list going and I forget to stop and hear what God is leading me to do. So we definitely need that prayer support. 2 specific things that you can be praying for us right now. We are short on volunteers. We definitely need volunteers to come and work with clients anywhere from 1 to 5 hours a week. We are also short on board members. We have this vision of where God is leading us, but we need people to help direct and guide us. Some we need people with specific skill sets. If we could find someone with a financial background, I would love that because I do not have one. And so it would be fabulous to have someone that way. It would also be wonderful to have someone with a medical background on our board, because with our medical clinic, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be considered and brought into the discussion that we're just kind of saying, okay, well, I pulled this off of the website and it says this, so I think that's how we do that, you know. So to have someone that's medically oriented be able to clarify that for us would be really good. Second of all, we need financial support. This is a huge thing because we do not accept any government funding. Had a really interesting situation. First of all, the fact that we've been around for 36 years and we're completely donor funded, completely individual and church funded is a testimony to God right there that we've been that way, okay? And we are so grateful to our churches that do support us. That's one of my big things to say thank you for is that. But this week, I got a pamphlet from an organization and was really excited about it because I'm reading through and they're saying, oh, well, you know, we can do this, and then it said, and we can get paid by the government, you know, this is government funding to do these things. And I went, really? How does that work? And I started going through the list, and then there was a checklist of like 35 items, and it said, well, are you incorporated or are you a nonprofit? Yes, we're a nonprofit. Do you have a board of directors? Yes. Do you offer parenting education? Yes. Do you, so it's going all down this list of all these things, and I'm like, yeah, we're already doing all this stuff. This is great. I get to number 16, and it says, are you willing to forgo sharing the Bible in order to offer services to receive government funding?
Oh.
And I went, nope, and it went right in the trash. Because it's been something that's really been on our heart lately, is that we need to be doing this more intentionally. We need to be more forward with this. And yet, in order to receive this government funding, we have to agree that we would not share the Bible or Christ. And yet, that's our whole mission. Okay? So, this is another reason why we are so blessed to have our church funding, is that we don't get tied up in knots like that. But the third reason that we need churches, and this is the most important, is what we call discipleship. This is one of those churchy words. But it really is leading through and guiding people in life, being with them side by side to help them in their decision making. And Roland Warren, who is the director, the CEO of our national organization, uses the example of a speedboat, and the pregnancy center is that speedboat, and there's all these people out in the water. And the speedboat comes along, and they pick one out, they dry her off, they love her up, and they set her in the boat. And then they go pick up the next one, dry her off, love her up, set her in the boat. Pretty soon, you've got a boat full of people, and what do you do with them? Well, there's still more people in the water, so do you throw these ones back? Hope they can float for a little while you're getting the other ones? Or do you take them to the cruise ship? The The cruise ship has food. The cruise ship has bedding. The cruise ship has medical services. The cruise ship has all these things, and they can fit all these people on the cruise ship. The cruise ship is the church. We need churches to come alongside and be ready to accept these women right where they are. Jesus didn't ask the Samaritan woman to change who she was before he would offer her this water. He offered it to her first, and he doesn't even tell her anything to change. There are other places where he says, "Go and sin no more." But in this story, he doesn't tell her to change. He offers her this life water and lets her think it over. So this is really what we need. Many of the pregnancy centers only do pregnancy-related things. Our center is unique in that we do care for mothers with children through age 4. So as long as they have a child under the age of 5, they can come. But what do they do from 5 till 18, or like in my family situation, 5 till 32? My 32-year-old brother is still having issues. So, we need the church alongside these women. And a lot of times, they're not open to that. We recently had a situation where one of our clients is working 2 part-time jobs and being very diligent, trying to save up money to pay all her bills because she knew that there was going to be a 6-week period after the baby was born that she couldn't work. The daycare center wouldn't take a child under 6 weeks, and she didn't know what she was going to do. She was trying to pay ahead on things, and according to her calculations, she was going to come up $300 short. So now she's thinking, okay, I have to go back to work the week after the baby's born because I just can't make it if I don't. So we approached one of our churches and said, hey, would you be willing to help this lady out? They came up with enough money to not only pay her rent, her estimate was $300 short. They did a free will offering and came up with enough money to pay her rent for the month and her auto insurance for the month so that she didn't have to worry about that and she could just take care of her little one. Before this whole situation, she was very much in I have this list of things, I have to keep this all straight, I have to take care of this, I have to take care of this. And if you'd mention God to her, or if you'd say, oh, well, when in my life, God worked it this way, okay, that's nice for you. Once she heard that this church was willing to help her, she was like, oh, really? They don't know me. Why? Because they love you, but they don't know me. Last week when she came to her appointment, she shared with her advocate that she had gone to services at the church just down the street from her. This is one way that we can reach them, one way that we can come alongside them and help them out. But our churches need to be ready. It's very hard to not look at this Samaritan woman and say, well, why are you at the well in the middle of the day? We know what's going on in your life. And we do that ourselves. We look at the outward dress, we look at the income level, and we fail to look at the heart issue because we're so focused on the outside issue. So please, pray about it, be open about it. We do have some resources. One is called Making Life Disciples, and it's a 6-week DVD series, or 6-lesson DVD series on being ready to accept people just as they are. There's another program called Embrace Grace, and I have that packet with me, and that one's specifically for pregnant moms coming in. But the other thing is just as your summer attendees are coming, as you have visitors coming through the summer, be ready to greet them. And if you find out that they need help that CareNet can offer, be ready to bring them. Sometimes they might need just someone to go with and keep them company. Okay, but thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure I did not stick to my 20 minutes.
You were right on time. We have time for just a few quick questions, actually, for Noel, if you had anything. Yeah, Linda.
How long has this ministry been going?
We opened in 1982. Yeah, so we're actually, in November, we celebrated 35 years, so we're now starting our 36th year.
What's the address of the pink?
1420.